Y'all know I talk a lot about how men are terrible leaders, especially in the outdoors, but this story, this is about something else. It's related, but it's not just men. So Yellowstone, I used to work in Yellowstone, and I have so much to say about this. So as somebody who was an outdoor adventure guide, went to college in Montana, worked the most random jobs all over the country and some all over the world, I know a lot about tourists in wilderness spaces, particularly white tourists, because that's the majority of the people I worked with. And one thing that I didn't realize about my people is how a lot of us are so out of touch with nature and have been to Disney World too many times because, well, okay, I'm going to get into my own personal story after I just address the other story. But first, join my Patreon. That's where I talk about all kinds of personal stuff, healing, dating, travel, living in France, all kinds of stuff, my writing, and that's where I do my lives. Please go check it out. That's where I have lots of fun over there. But this story, I've kind of lived a lot of lives, mostly because I did not date. So that is why I've had such an interesting life. People don't even believe all the random stuff I've done, and it's literally because I didn't date. That's it. I mean, being curious and reckless and running from trauma and all kinds of other things. And also being, middle class and having all of these privileges. But one of the main reasons why I didn't get just distracted is because I just didn't date men or anybody. And so one of my very first jobs, I think my very first job actually out west, and I didn't really know anything about Yellowstone. And one of the very first things that they made us do in training, very first things, was watch a safety video about wildlife. And the bison, they are dangerous. And not because they are dangerous, but because we are dangerous, right? Just like the bear. The bear don't want to have anything to do with us. We are the danger, and they're usually just retaliating and protecting their cubs or their peace or their territory. So we are the terrorists, and they are just doing like counterterrorism as needed. Use that American government military metaphor. We are the terrorists, okay? Anyway, the very first clip that they show was a father putting his toddler on the back of a bison for a photo. And then they showed another one of people being like trying to pet it. And then the very next clip, they showed a bison throwing an adult man's body way up in the air, like at least 10 feet. And I was like, oh, okay. They're dangerous. I need to stay away from them. Even though maybe they're just kind of like furry cows. No, not at all. I mean, I've pretty much respected animals my whole life because I don't know. I don't want to hurt any of them. And so the thing I don't want to do is pet something I don't know anything about. But after that video, I was like, sorry, that's French. Noted. Don't go anywhere near them. Leave them alone. They're peaceful animals, right? They warned us more about bison than bears. But the only reason you got to learn about bears is because humans, of course, and all of our food and our smelly stuff, and you have to hang it, and you have to do 100, like there's all these rules around it. I learned all of them. I was very careful. Now, I worked in the kitchen, sometimes like washing dishes and stuff, where I'd wear this little cute outfit, and I made, I think, $4.25 an hour. And funny thing, this was back in 1997. This was the quarters where we would hang out. Like this was I lived up here, the second floor. It was a dorm room, squeaky twin bed. And it's funny, that was let's see, that's been 25 years, and the minimum wage has been raised, what, $3? And 25, like that is insane. But this was, and then they also took out most of my pay to pay for this and food. So I really didn't none of us could really do anything but just hang out in the park. Unless you have a big old bank account with lots of savings or deposits. So when I wasn't washing dishes, I was working on a cafeteria line and feeding like endless hundreds of tourists lasagna, or I forget the other major dish, or I was scooping ice cream. Okay, so I spent a whole summer there, and the bison would hang out. Sometimes the bison would be hanging out like right here, like right by a window, right here. you know, because they're just doing their thing. But even still, with them being so terrifyingly close to us, we knew to just pretend like they're not there. You know, la, 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 right? We're not petting them, that's for sure. In fact, this is what we did at night. Those are empty milk crates from stocking the food. We'd race them down the ramp, you know, like whatever. You go hiking, you do stuff like this, people hooking up, you know, whatever. But what you didn't do is go touching animals or messing with animals. And if anybody actually read any information before going to Yellowstone, they would know not to touch or go anywhere near or make them feel unsafe at all. So because yet another goring thing happened, the New York Times came out with an article, want to see a bison in Yellowstone? You're likely not prepared, because people underestimate these animals. And I'm going to give you some even more crazy examples from my own experience as we go through this. So stick around. So just last week, an 83-year-old woman, y'all, 83-year-old woman was gored by a bison. But like all of them, it was defending its space. Serious injuries after being lifted about only a foot. She's lucky. Then they give some other examples of like April, 40-year-old man was injured after harassing. Y'all know how I feel about this, right? Do not hang out with men in the outdoors. I'm about to cover another story of oh my God, there's so much news this week, y'all. It's so hard to keep up with everything. But so many of them are like right in my like wheelhouse. Please stop trusting men that you go into the wilderness with, whether it's your male guide, unless they're emotionally intelligent and don't gaslight you all the time and are not overconfident, or your boyfriend or your dad or your husband or any of that stuff, unless they are humble and emotionally intelligent and listen to you. Do not go in the outdoors with them. Because in what world is harassing a herd? Have you not seen any movies? Like Dances with Wolves at the very least, but like anything, literally anything. These animals run fast, and there's usually a lot of them. And unless you're on a horse or something, you don't have good chance. And he's like harassing them. Y'all, we know that men they harass us all the time. They will harass animals. They will grape our dead bodies. They will do ungodly things to ungodly. What does that even mean? Why did that come out of my mouth? Anyway, the sickest things to animals. But again, I believe, and this is like that you know, colonizer mindset of like conquering nature, which is like so grapey, you know, like which is why I'm always questioning climbers and all these outdoor dudes, especially if they are just all about fresh new territory. They have to do something new all the time, unless it's literally their job. What is it about, like, are you a little too obsessed with like pure things, virginal things, conquering things, being the first to plant your flag, pissing on a fire hydrant? What is that about? Question that. Because that mindset towards nature and animals and humans and women and literally everybody, that dehumanization is part of like that colonial mindset, white supremacist, capitalist, patriarchal, all of the awful things mindset that if you grew up in the United States, were absolutely indoctrinated into on some level. Not just the United States, but that is my home country, and that's the place I feel the most comfortable talking about. And I have a history degree about that place mostly. So another woman was attacked. 47-year-old sustained significant injuries after being charged. I looked that one up. She wasn't doing anything. They were just walking, and then they saw bison. And so this is more like wrong place, wrong time. They tried to turn and walk away, but too late. Now, compare that to this. A man pleaded guilty to 1 count of feeding, touching, teasing, frightening, or intentionally disturbing wildlife after interacting with the newborn bison calf, which have to be euthanized. Now, this story was not like malicious. This dude was not like trying to hurt the bison, but because of that, I don't know, savior complex, hero, I know better than nature. I must know more about this calf than its own mother right over there. Decided to help him out. His wife was recording a video of the herd when he noticed the newborn. So this dude sees this calf and he's like, it was in the water begging for help to get out. And I understand this instinct. As an animal lover myself, I probably would have felt like, who knows what I would have done in that scenario. I just think it's really interesting in this article. I didn't discuss it with my wife. Yeah, you probably should have, buddy. They just went down to the embankment and was like, come on, calf, let's get out of there. I couldn't stand to see the calf die. But because you clearly did not do your homework before showing up, like so many men who come to subjects having read the cliff notes and missed every class and then expecting to pass tests with flying color and assume they know everybody more than everyone, including the teacher, had you actually looked at any material about animals before going to this park that is centered around preserving these few animals that were almost completely extinct. I mean, the park is about a lot of things, but especially bison. And if you're new here and you don't know much about the U.S. history, bison, those are bison skulls, and they were nearly extinct on purpose by the late 19th century following U.S. expansion into the West, trying to literally starve these people to death, ruin spiritual practices, literally just disrupt everybody so they could take the land. Colonial settlers, like we're seeing still, wanting to farm and ranch. Farmers and ranchers, I tell you, that's one thing I learned about living in Montana and Wyoming and being out west for a long time. The ranchers, they'll always going to be ranching, and they hate wolves, they hate bison, they hate it, like anything that threatens the cattle that they're gonna kill anyway. Anyway, sorry, I understand. I know this is just capitalism, but I'm just saying. So yeah, look at this. Okay, well, I'm gonna get back to the story. I just want some context. Deliberate policy by settler governments to destroy the food source of indigenous people during times of conflict. Okay, this is literally the most basic Wikipedia search. 400 treaties with the Plains tribes, most of them broke, all for settler colonialism belief in manifest destiny. That deserves 100 videos by itself. But anyway, bison was fundamental to the economy and society of the Plains peoples who inhabited all that. And my people were like, get out! And they destroyed everything. So the fact that bison are still around is a miracle, even though they're like prehistoric animals or something. Whatever, this isn't about bison, not a scientist, just giving context. Because this dude thinking that, like so many people, especially men and especially people who look like me do, is thinking that everything is for our consumption, our entertainment, that it is somehow involved with us. And his attempt to save the bison actually endangered lots of things. His plan didn't work. And even though it wasn't malicious, lots of people's encounters with animals are not malicious. Impact is always more important to pay attention to than intent, okay? Sometimes the intent is absolutely there, but sometimes this dude just thought he was doing the right thing, but he didn't educate himself, so he caused harm. And then his wife didn't ask her, so he just brought all this on himself. Now the whole country, I mean, I don't remember this dude, but he was in the New York Times with his photo as the dude who was the reason why a calf was euthanized. How do you think his wife, how do you think his wife feels about that? Everything that men do is a reflection of us. Society blames us. We pay the consequences of everything men do, right? So didn't ask his wife, well, now she's paying the price. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, visitors saw the calf approach and follow cars and people after that. Of course, park rangers repeatedly tried to reunite the animal with the herd, but their efforts were unsuccessful. So they had to euthanize it because it had been abandoned by the herd and causing hazardous situations by approaching cars and people along the roadway. Because once that calf is like, oh, are you my daddy? Whatever. Like now, this calf is going to be interacting with humans, and now we got more humans thinking, oh, we can just pet the calf. And even though this guy did the wrong thing, again, I'm not saying that my instinct wouldn't have been to save the calf if I didn't know all this information. This is why it's our responsibility to educate ourselves just a little bit, bare minimum, before going and visiting other places, instead of acting like the savior, the police, the owner, the manager, whatever. So back to that original New York Times article says, they think that all these gorings are like, a sign of how unfamiliar people are with dealing with wild animals. Absolutely. And again, I'm going to tell you a few more examples from my own personal experience before we wrap this up. Should you be afraid of bison? No. You should be afraid of going anywhere near them. Yes. Can a human outrun a bison? No. They go up to 35 miles an hour. And because they're so front heavy, they can turn fast, whatever. And they can throw you really high, like a rag doll. Like her. Ah! Right? Like that's what it's going to look like with blood. Should you approach a bison? No. In what circumstances should humans intervene with human wild? None. Never. There may have been a reason why that mom did not go back and get that cat. This thing about like humans thinking that we're smarter than everything is so arrogant. There is probably a very good reason why that calf was abandoned. Maybe mom would die trying to take care of it. Maybe it was sick. Who knows? But this like arrogance that comes with this kind of conditioning, we don't know everything. We don't even know most things. And that is so liberating once you realize that you don't know as much as you thought you knew. So liberating because so many things are not like your problem to solve. If it comes with arrogance and entitlement, at least. That doesn't mean we don't do anything, right? Bison are more active during summer, which is pretty much like almost the only time that millions of people are visiting that park. They're protective of their babies. Duh. But a lot of people, like, again, it's so funny. Maybe, you know what? Maybe this is why men just don't know, like, understand nature. They don't understand that protective instinct that mama bears have. Most anything. Most mama animals are like, rah, right? Like, they are dangerous. And men are just like, oh, look, I don't understand. I don't know what that instinct is like to protect anyone but myself. I never connected that before. And then later in the summer, it's a bad idea because they're breeding. Like, that's like the only time the men are like, the males are dangerous. They're like, go to press, see? Anyway, whatever. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I am so projecting humans, whatever. What happens if you encounter a bison? Remain calm. Do not walk towards them. Do not stare them in the eyes. This is not a game of chicken. They're not bears. You don't need to be yelling. They know you're there. You don't need to wave. Ah, hey bear, hey bear. No, you're like, oopsie, sorry, bye. Now, most people think safe distance is like 5 feet. No. 25 yards or 75 feet. 75 feet, 25 yards. If you are a dude and you play football, surely you can figure that one out. Or whatever. That was very gendered. If you like American football, whatever. Oh my God. This is me the first time I saw a grizzly in Montana. This is Glacier National Park. Got my little bear spray on me, even though I know it's probably like worthless. Pretty much anytime you see animals, even if they're literally in your campsite that you have spent all day hiking uphill to, you're starving, you're tired, you just want to finally take the boots off that are causing so many blisters, and then you see a grizzly in your camp, around your camp area, after, I don't know, 15 miles of hiking, you know what you do? You turn around and you go somewhere else. Whoop! You got dibs, okay? That's that attitude of like, sorry, I'm a guest, not the owner of this kingdom approach is pretty much the way to go. With most animals, at least. And I just want to share a couple things when I was a raft guide in Jackson Hole. Well, actually, when I was a raft guide everywhere. But the things people said to me shocked me. So in Jackson Hole, which goes through Teton National Park, which is, touches Yellowstone, we would do overnight rafting trips and we would oftentimes see moose. And I remember someone being like, where does that moose go at night? And I'm like, what do you mean by that? Because this is the most confused. I'm like, what? What do you mean? Where'd they go? And they're like after I asked enough questions, I realized they literally thought that this was a park like Disney, and that moose was just let out of its little cage or something, or corral to go and eat grass as we went by in a boat, and then it would go back to being a domesticated. Like, what? I had people ask me where we got all these rocks in the river when I was a guide in Taos, New Mexico. I'm like, what do you mean by that? And they're like, where do you get them from? And I'm like, they come from here. What do you mean? And they're like, no, but where do they bring them from? And then I was like, we import them from China. And they're like, I was kidding. I thought they were kidding. They weren't kidding. Someone asked me if my boat was on tracks, like the Pirates of the Caribbean. And I'm like, no, they're not on tracks. You better paddle. I don't want to die. And somebody asked me once when we slammed into a rock, as we often do in boats when you're rafting, is that rock made of rubber? What? The boat! I did not realize until working in the outdoors just how out of touch so many people are. And granted, a lot of people are out of touch because of cities and the whole system of making things inaccessible, and only like usually like people with money, which oftentimes is like richer white people, or just whatever. Like it takes money and resources to go and enjoy the outdoors. But the people that were asking me these questions were rich people, lawyers, doctors, people who had money to come do this stuff. So it wasn't just a lack of exposure thing. It was like a just completely cut off. And then I was like, oh my God, that's probably what I thought before. Like I didn't know. And then I started realizing that like the Disneyfication of everything, you know, like that's part of this whole thing. That's like, oh, it's part of like the US and what we do, right? What our government has done historically since the beginning is just clear away everything. All the people. Except with the ones we're going to enslave and exploit, or just outright unalive, or make them assimilate and all this other crap. And just create this empty thing that is like so not connected to anything. Humanity, earth, emotions, like nothing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. I'm still like learning this stuff. Like, but just if you're like, I'm talking, it's like if you're a white person and you're like, what are you talking about? What? It's okay. I didn't know any of this stuff for a long time and I'm still learning. But this stuff, like, God, I can't believe, like, oh. No wonder it's so easy to just destroy the earth when you got no relationship to it or other people or yourself. So I don't know. That was like, I've been like kind of trying to deconstruct all this stuff for a long time, and it came in this really weird way. But oddly, working in the outdoors and learning just how disconnected I was, but even more so how much the average person, at least the average person who looks like me, is, unless they grew up in nature or had the money to go enjoy it, which even that is debatable. If you have to spend a ton of money and like on stolen land and pay some corporation to go up a lift to go enjoy nature that only certain people seem to be able to do. Like, you know, whatever, like 1984, right? Or like, let's just like take nature and make it like, put capitalism, right? So you have to pay money on gear and access and all this stuff on stolen land to enjoy it. And then you're still not gonna, anyway. I'm sorry, this video is a little all over the place. But seeing that about, I forget some of the stories and the jobs I've done until I see a news article and I'm like, oh, I know some things about Yosemite. Everything I learn makes me just want to connect more to my own humanity by unlearning this crap. Oh my God. Oh. And thanks for all of the people I follow who've taught me so much, and the books written by so many people with lived experiences and rich histories that were not in my history books, because the Daughters of the Confederacy, the white women in the South, ruined my education by rewriting history and making it about states' rights and the lost cause and all this crap. The more I unlearn all that stuff and relearn from people who know way more about this stuff, especially indigenous people, obviously, when it comes to taking care of the land, man, the more hope I feel and the less dead I feel inside. I don't know. I'm sorry. This was all over the place. I hope you enjoyed it. Join my Patreon if you want more personal stuff. And yeah, my especially because like YouTube is like, I don't know what's happening, but I can't pay my bills on YouTube because of YouTube anymore. I don't know what's happening. So I may have to start doing something else soon. So please like, comment, share, follow Patreon so I'll have like, don't have to rely so much on the algorithm gods. And have a great day. Thank you for being here. Hey, voila.